Back to our conversation here. It is no longer news that Genevieve Nnaji's directorial debut movie, Lionheart, has been disqualified from consideration in the Best International Feature Film category for the 2020 Oscars.
According to the Academy, the film does not meet the language requirement necessary for inclusion in the category since it was filmed mostly in English despite the film having some Igbo language parts. The Academy rule states that the film must have a predominantly non-English dialogue track in order to be considered for the category. This decision comes as a disappointment considering it was Nigeria's first entry to the Oscars and it was one of the record-breaking 29 films out of 93 originally submitted this year that were directed by women. Reacting to the news, American filmmaker Ava DuVernay took to his Twitter page to criticize the Academy's decision.
Tweeting to the Academy, you disqualified Nigeria's first ever submission for the Best International Feature because it's in English. But English is the official language of Nigeria. Are you barring this country from ever competing as in an Oscar in its official language?
In response to Ava's tweet, Genevieve Nnaji wrote, "Thank you so much, Ava. I'm the director of Lionheart. This movie represents the way we speak as Nigerians. This includes English, which acts as a bridge between the 500+ languages spoken in our country, thereby making us #OneNigeria at the Academy."
Well, she continues to say, it's no different to how the French connects communities in former French colonies, but did not choose who colonized us. As ever, this theme, and many like it, is proudly Nigerian.
Joining us now is Mr. Francis Owoche, Fellow of Theatre Arts, an award-winning filmmaker and actor, former Secretary General, Independent Television Producers Association of Nigeria, and a distinguished veteran of the creative industry in Nigeria. Welcome to the morning show, sir.
Thank you very much.
Now, let's go straight into it. Now, there's been this debate, about whether or not we should have been disqualified. Now, looking at the requirements that are put in place, you need to have we have 95 minutes in the movie, and we know that only 12 of those minutes were spent, speaking a local language, Igbo, in this particular situation. Now, who is to blame here? Because the requirements were put out. However, Genevieve has said our official language is English language.
Okay. Let me say, first of all, that as Nigerians, we need to even congratulate ourselves that finally we were able to at least pick one movie to represent us at the Academy.
Even though it was thrown out.
Yes, but I mean, it's making a lot of waves. It's been trending all over the world. In my opinion, I think the selection committee had a bit of an oversight that they were not conscious that it could amount to something of a disqualification. Otherwise, they would have been more circumspect, because in truth, we all have seen Lionheart, and I think it's a great movie. However, because language is a key consideration of the Academy, it should not have been
And I want to play devil's advocate here and come in support of Genevieve. And I'll give you instances. When you look at the movies that have mostly won this category, the last one, Roma was largely in Spanish. So if invariably the Academy is saying you're not having your indigenous language there, what you're saying is it's dialect or sub-regional language. Other movies that have won this, for instance, an Arab movie, Arabic is spoken all over the Arabian Peninsula. But in Arabic too, there are dialects. There is Farsi, all right? And there's some other dialects of Arabic. The French-speaking movies that have done well, that is speaking French, let's not forget, if you set a French movie in Senegal, most of these movies, they're not speaking Wolof.
Well,
so, English is this to us. Why can't the Academy understand this? It's our indigenous way.
I agree. We all are just as passionate, even more passionate than you are, because we agree that English is our official language. But it happens that the Academy, they have set rules. and we cannot now begin to change their rules. What does their rules say? The key one is that for a film to qualify for international consideration, it has to be non-English. So whether we like it or not, what is perhaps more critical now is that we should begin to think, what of Pidgin English? Will Pidgin English, for instance, count as non-English? But we need to clarify, even from the academy. If we do not have that clarification, we will continue to make these mistakes.
But it should count as non-English, because Pidgin English is Creole. So I'll give you an instance. Pidgin English is an agglomeration of many languages. So take, for instance, the word, when we say sabi in Pidgin English, sabi is a Portuguese verb to know.
See, I understand.
So it's an agglomeration of many languages, so it should pass.
I understand all of that. But these guys have rules. What we just need to do is to connect with the rules that they, in my opinion, and I think is the generally accepted opinion, Pidgin English ought to be counted as non-English. But we still have to clarify that that is their own interpretation. But hey, come, let's look at it critically. Is it that we could not make films in Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, or in any of the other 250 plus tribes that we have in Nigeria? Yes, we can, but why are we not making it? It's very simple. To make an important film that will make commercial impact in Nigeria, you have to go beyond languages. You have to make films in English that can spread around and communicate with people generally.
Those does not say a lot about Nollywood and the age-long criticism that it fails to pay attention to details. Because again, the academy, like you rightly said, does have its rules. These rules have been there. In fact, in April this year, they did announce that the name of the category was changing. However, the rules remain the same. Yeah. Should we not be blaming this on the academy? On the selection committee? The Nigerian selection committee, beg your pardon.
A lot of professionals have, in their various ways and styles, criticized. In fact, the committee, they have come under serious criticism. And I do think that if they are honest to themselves, they will also take the blame and apologize to professionals, apologize to Nigerians, and then take a cue from all of the happenings and begin to change. But, you see, it is also not as easy as we look at it for a film to begin to make the desired impact internationally. In other countries, in Kenya, in South Africa, many years ago, the organization, you prepare for Oscars. You don't just come out as a filmmaker and say, okay, I want to, because a lot of political lobby, your film has to make international impact. A lot of things go on in making impact. Therefore, this is where big players, this is where government, if you like, in South Africa corporately decide that, okay, you know what, we are going to devise a policy.
Okay. So we'll go for a quick break. We'll come back and talk about this. We're going to have many points to pick. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the morning show.
We still have Mr. Francis Onweche, a fellow of theatre arts, an award-winning filmmaker and actor in the studio with us. Thank you so much for staying with us. You want to land on that point you were making, because you're making inference to South Africa?
Yes, I was saying countries like Kenya, like Senegal, like South Africa, particularly South Africa, you walk towards the Oscars. Because of its many complications, because of the political lobby, because of the finance that is involved, the country devised a policy to say, okay, in the next 5 years, we are going to angle and make an impact in the Oscars. And then you plan ahead. You commission film in your native dialect.
So what do you have to say to those who say, you know what, the Academy just gave us a soft landing by saying this was based on language? There are those who feel that this movie did not meet criteria and it was just a way of saying, you know what, just language. It didn't meet the criteria because of language. Do you feel so? What do you have to say to people like that who feel that this was beyond language?
Well, for Lionheart, I will follow the official train, that is the language. It's all over the place that a lot of the films may not have met the desired technical quality because, you see, it's beyond language. There are a lot of technical requirements. There's this Dolby surround quotient 5.1. There are sound, picture, and all of that. And so, if in all of these concerns and challenges, if Lionheart appears to be the one that has met the most part of this technical requirement, and of course, I think the committee in their own judgment thought that will just pass. But unfortunately, it didn't. And so we learn from this and then we move forward.
Okay, so how does this rule impact our movie industry, where we know that a large portion of our movies are made in English language? Because we make movies for the audience, not for the awards. Like you rightfully said, in South Africa, the government, they have a plan. We don't have that right now in Nigeria. Does that mean that we're going to have to keep, waiting for movies to be made in an official dialect before they can be pushed forward for the Oscars?
At any rate, if you do desire it, then you have to work towards it. Independents can come and say, you know what, I'm going to make a great movie. I'll meet all the technical requirements, but I will make it in an indigenous language. So that, if you meet the technical requirement, including language, then of course you qualify. But you stand the chance of not making commercial impact in the country. Therefore, what happens is that the government, for instance, now come and say, okay, you know what? Let us create a special movie, one or two, and let us plan it towards making impact at the Oscars. Not necessarily making money. If it makes money, great. But the government will look at just pick a producer or two producers.
Isn't this a jarring assault on Nollywood that is said to be the second or third biggest movie industry in the world? The third, and it's not made a movie at the Oscars. And you have small movie markets like Spain, like the Arabs, like Turkey, like very small countries do movies, or even like the British movie industry.
I started.
Isn't it a jarring assault on Nollywood?
Not exactly. I do not think so. Why? I started by saying that we should even be glad that we're where we are. Take the trajectory of the growth and development of our environment. And this is where we are now. I can assure you, going forward, you will see that there are a lot of producers and directors who are keyed in on making greater movies than Lionheart. You'll begin to see it in a couple of weeks.
But they need money. They need money. And Preston Goodluck Jonathan did put that money on the table down. Correct me if I'm wrong, 200 million US? Or how much was it?
Yes, but of course, it's not only for production.
So what happened to that money? Has that money been spent? How can people access it?
That you must be referring to the Project Act Nollywood, devised by the Jonathan government. Yes, the fund was to help advance knowledge, the capacity development, distribution, and of course production. And it's been properly used. Very minimally, you saw the impact in production.
Do we have an outlay of how the money was spent and the knock-on impact? You see, because it's not for one thing to make. I think it was Milton Friedman that was saying, people shouldn't make policies because of the intentions. People should make policies because of the results. What's the result of this?
Very good question.
And how, because we should be able to see the knock-on effect on this Oscar nomination.
Very good question. You do not even know whether the birth of Lionheart was part of those effects. You do not know. Now, but what is critical is that the government thought it wise that this industry needed to be supported. And they devised a plan to do that. But what is the continuing strategy? Nothing. After that fund, nothing happened again. But guess what? How much are we talking about here?
How much is it? $200 million?
$200 million, yeah. But you see, a lot of them went into distribution, and that's why you have places like the cinema places that you're seeing, and so many of them. A lot of money is needed in an environment as this. Production was just 700 million. And how many producers will access? Maybe people got an average of 5 to 7 million. What is 5 to 7 million in a budget of, say, 100 million, 150 million? Yes. But it's a positive thing that the government did that. What is better for the environment is there ought to have been a policy of continuation. and then you begin to see impact. But I can assure you, movies are coming, better movies are coming, and then we'll all be happy by it.
You know, speaking about better movies coming, we're talking about the recent launch of Living in Bondage, which we know came out 27 years ago, and it actually meets that language requirements because about 80% of the movie is done in an indigenous language. However, we're all aware when Lionheart was picked and sent in for the Oscar nomination. Don't you think it's a bit strange that this actor did not reach out to say, you know what, this doesn't meet the requirement, and then in the same length and breadth released a movie that met, that requirement?
Okay. The selection committee is just not one person. It's not 2, 3, 4, 5. They're about 9 or 12. And so they must, when they bring out Lionheart, it's a collective responsibility on all of them. It means that is what the selection committee thought best for our environment. It has gone wrong, and all of them will have blimps for it. You can't single out an individual and say, oh, look, well, he knows. All of them know. They are all very qualified, absolutely brilliant practitioners. And if they did that they did for Lionheart, it's a collective responsibility on all of them. I told you earlier, you will begin to see movies now that it's not only language. You must also not forget the technical requirements, sound, picture, values, production values. There are a lot. Language just becomes only one of the key critical aspects, but we got this wrong.
Well, let's take a clip from the movie Lionheart.
Very good MD, ma. My father is still very much alive on you.
You must be a proud father. Of course, I'm immensely proud of my daughter. She's her father's daughter.
Hey, Chief. Chief.
Nnaji, what's wrong?
My deepest condolences. Sorry, my best wishes.
You don't mind what you're
Well, I don't know why you're...
A Lionheart will have to soldier on until I get back on my feet. I now name my replacement Chief God's Will.
The button door.
King of boys in terms of...
Well, this definitely doesn't take away the shine from Lionheart. It was a good movie. Unfortunately, it was thrown out. It was Nigeria's first ever at the Oscars. What did you think of the movie itself?
I like it. I like Lionheart, and I'm particularly excited for Genevieve because I think in acting and directing, she's demonstrated absolute capacity. But it's a different question now. What do I think of it for our entry at the Oscars?
As we wrap up, going forward, if we don't have a movie that meets all the requirements, should we just tell the Oscars that we don't have it and not submit anything?
Absolutely. And that has gone on for 2, 3 years now.
Okay.
It excited all of us that finally we have made an official entry. But if we do not meet the criteria, and we do know the criteria, I can assure you all members of the Oscar Selection Committee in Nigeria, they know the criteria. If we do not find any film as qualified for the entry, we should not make any entry. QED. But we should work towards it.
Due diligence, pay attention to details. It is very important. Nollywood. Okay, thank you so much for coming on the show this morning.
I love Nollywood.
I love Nollywood.
Great stories. I love Nollywood. You know what I love about Nollywood? In the midst of the scarcity of resource, they still eke out something. And we should give that to Nollywood. All the film industries were pre-planned. Nollywood came out of nothing. You know, and I love Nollywood.
And they're making their marks around the world. Thank you so much for joining us today. That's the end of the show. I'm Adesoa Omoruan.
I'm Rufai Oseni, the lover of Nollywood.
And I am Sheto Atigari. Thank you for watching from our entire team here in Lagos. Enjoy the rest of your morning and, of course, the rest of your day, and support Nollywood.